Today, I'm going to share with you a little bit of a personal story and tell you what I did. A few years back, I created the credit game and documented all the process and how I went from the 515 credit score all the way up to an 831 yesterday when I checked. So from the 515s to the 800. So if it's your first time on the channel, take a second to subscribe. You only want to do is multiple videos per day, not just one, but sometimes even 3 videos per day that we're doing, so you guys can learn credit. You can learn the tips, the strategies, and all the things and nuances you need to learn about credit, because reality is this dictates your life. Credit dictates your life. And the higher your credit score, the easier and better life, the more freedom you're going to have because of credit. So my job is to raise your credit score. Plain and simple. This channel is called The Credit Game. It's about raising credit scores. It's about helping you with your finances so that way you can have the best life that you were born to have. That being said, hit the like button, hit the share button with anybody who you could use. Maybe someone in your family has less than a 750 credit score. So you just share this video with them and let them, use the benefit of it, right? Today, I want to talk about one important thing, and that is how to raise your credit score 200 points. And I say your because really I'm talking about myself here. I was in a position at 500s, and how I got to the 700s was doing these few things that I'm going to talk about right now. Okay. So if I wanted to raise my credit score, and I want you to reverse engineer this as if it was you, and I'm looking at my credit score and I'm seeing that I'm in the 500, and I'm going to try to raise my credit score 200 points, and I want to be in the 700. The first thing you have to understand is you need to know your score, because a lot of people don't even know their score. They won't take the time to open up a Credit Karma so they even know what they have. Take a second. It takes 3 minutes. I'm not a big fan of Credit Karma, but just open up a Credit Karma. It takes 2 seconds, right? It's quick, it's easy. Okay. Eventually you're gonna need identity IQ, and I'll explain in a minute why. But for right now, if you don't have a Credit Karma, you don't know what your credit score is, pull it up. It's going to give you a TransUnion Equifax, and you can go and get your Experian if you want it at freecreditreport.com. But that being said, know your score. Number 2, so that's the first thing, right? I'm going to tell you 5 things. Number 2 is this portion here can get you 100 points plus. Remember, I talked about raising your credit score 200 points. So I'm going to kind of split this in half. The next 100 points is going to come from adding positives. Okay, so also known as authorized users. What I did was I added myself to 2 credit cards. Okay, I'm going to tell you the 2 cards I had. I had a very high credit limit Chase card, $63,000. It had 23 years of history on it. Okay, then I also put a $50,000 Bank of America on there that only had 2 years. These are the 2 cards I personally added to my credit. Why? Because these are A1 banks. What that means is they are the largest banks in America. Okay, Chase, Citibank, Bank of America. These are huge banks, right? And they're considered what they call A1. When you're adding a trade line, look for A1 banks. I'm going to give you a few right now. Okay, so if you're going to add authorized users, Citibank, Chase, Bank of America, Discover, Capital One, US Bank, USAA, Navy Federal. Okay, those are the banks. Try to stay away from Synchronies, Comenity, store banks, store cards, lower credit unions, community banks. These tend to be what they call B banks. Okay, and they have a smaller cap rate, which is essentially what it means from an A bank to a B bank. It just means that their net worth is not as much. Stick with the ones I just shared with you. Now, a couple things you need to know about authorized user trade lines. Okay, A, you can get them from a family member or a friend. Okay, and when you get it from a family member or a friend, that means that they're going to leave you on as long as you want to stay on usually, right? They're not trying to rotate you. If you purchase trade lines, you want to purchase trade lines with the mindset of window of opportunity. What that means is if you have something to do, maybe you're trying to buy a house, or you're trying to get a car, or you're trying to get some credit cards, or you're ready to start your, whatever the case is, you're trying to do something. You want to use those trade lines in that window of opportunity that are going to show active during the process of you getting the loan or credit cards or the car or the house. Okay, that's why it's called the window of opportunity, because generally, if you're purchasing trade lines, they're only going to stay on active for about 45 days. Now, when they remove you, because it is a business, they want more people on their cards. When they remove you, the cool thing about it is you're going to lose the credit limit, but the age remains. The only credit card that does go away completely is called a Discover line. So Discover line will actually, the whole count removes when they remove you as an authorized user. Everything else, you leave the age will stay, but you'll lose the revolving credit limit. So if you added a 10K 5 years old, the 5 years old will still factor into your average age, but the 10K will be closed down. Okay, so you won't lose all your points, but you're going to lose about 40 to 50%. So if it raises your credit score 50 points, you'll lose 25 when they close you down. Okay, if you add yourself to a Discover, even though it's a great line, you actually lose both the age and the credit limit. Okay, now when picking lines, you want to be very clear about the lines you want. Meaning, A1 banks would be my first thing. Number two is I'm looking for age. In trade lines, age will trump the credit limit. So if you have a choice between picking something that's 10 years old, that's maybe a 5K limit, or something that's, a 20K limit that's only 2 years old, definitely select the one that's got the age over the limit. Okay. Now, if you're going to buy two lines, and this is what I did for myself, because remember I told you I gained over 163 points just by adding AUs. I had a Chase line, 63,000, very high credit limit, 23 years old, bomb line. And then I also said, okay, cool, let me put another one on that's got a high limit. I don't care too much about the age because I got enough age with the Chase. So I put that 50K Bank of America on that had about 2 or 3 years on it, and my score went up 163 points. All right, so that's how you can increase your credit score immediately. Now, for those of you that are in the 400s, 300s, 400s, or even the 500s, to be honest with you, probably want to wait to trade lines until part 2, which I'm going to talk to you about now, because if you have too much negative on there, the trade lines will not make as much impact. The way to look at a trade line is you're going to get about 6 points per year that the card is old. 10-year line, 60 points. Okay, so that's kind of how you want to factor a trade line. And that really is determined by how much negative you have. If you got a lot of negative, don't use that factor. This is for people that don't have negatives on your credit report. Okay, if you have a bunch of negatives, you might get 2-3 points per year, right? Because it's kind of pushing through the fat. If you got too much fat on there, meaning negatives, then when you put the trade line on, it's not going to make as much impact as it normally would if you got a clean file. Okay, so that's how you can raise your credit score 100 points. The other 100 points is reverse psychology. Let's talk about removing stuff to increase score. So if we want to remove negatives, which would be collections and charge-offs, right? Student loans, maybe you've got some, bankruptcy or a foreclosure, or you've got, like I said, any collection or charge-off. Think about each one of those that you remove is going to add about 20 to 25 points on your credit score. So if you're looking at your credit report and you're looking at your factors on Credit Karma, right? And you're looking at your derogatories and it shows you've got 10 derogatories. Well, if you get 20 points right there, if you had 10 collections, charge-offs, right? You could potentially get 200 points right there just by removing the 10 negatives. So I'm not sure why you guys haven't started removing the negatives, because there's two options there. Option number one, have it done for you, pay an organization to do it. Or part two, which is you do it yourself. Okay? And you better know what you're doing if you're doing it yourself, because it is a art to removing negatives. People have tried, and I have to tell you legally, you have the option to do it yourself because the FCRA says 1970 Act says you can do your own credit repair. So the choice is yours. There are the two options. You can have it paid. We got busy lives. The last thing we want to do is try to figure out credit repair. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to try to do it myself. Right? So 20 to 25 points on average every time you remove something as a negative on your credit report. And then lastly, you want to look at inquiries, right? Every inquiry is about a point to 2. Right? So if you have 20 inquiries on Equifax, 20 Experian, and 20 on TransUnion, and you wanted to get an extra 30 points, right? Let's call it 1.5 points. Every inquiry give you 1.5 points back. So again, this is removing stuff off your credit report, and what it does is it's going to raise your credit score because you're removing the negatives. So it's kind of counterbalancing. It goes like this. As you remove negatives, your score goes up. So let's look at it right now. If we had 20 inquiries, right, but you don't have any collections, and you wanted to gain 30 points, remove the 20 inquiries. Pay to have it done or do it yourself. Two options, right? There's always ever two options. And then last but not least, and this is important, right? If you guys had a business, maybe you opened up a S Corp, a C Corp, an LLC, a sole prop, whatever the case is, and you started building your business credit, and guess what? When you start getting business credit cards, you can use those business credit cards, and guess what doesn't happen to your personal credit? Like I have an Amex credit card, right? That is a charge card. I don't know, maybe 100,000 limit or so. I use it for all my ad spend, all my marketing for my company. My credit score on my personal side doesn't move a point because it's on the business side of things. So you can leverage business credit cards to not affect your personal credit. It starts by opening up a company with the state, right? Getting your EIN number, going to open up a business bank account, putting your 5 net 30s on there. And then going back to the bank and starting with a low credit limit, right? And then working your way up and getting a few credit cards. But this all is incongruent with your personal credit. If your personal credit is bad, you're not going to be able to leverage high limit credit cards on the business side of things. So let's go back to square one. Is your credit score under 781 right now? Put it in comments. Let me know right now if your credit score is under 781. Just put yes or no. Okay? Because I need to know from you guys where your credit score is, because my goal is to get you over 781. Come hell or high water, that's my job, is to get you over 781 so that way you can flourish and you can have high credit limit cards and you can do the things you want in life. Because I'll tell you what, I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been on the side with the 500s and I've been on the side with the 800s. And life is hard with the credit score of 800, right? 831. It's impossible in the 500. I mean, you're just living life just to live life. Life is happening to you, not because of something you're doing. You got to take action, man. You got to say, you know what? Like today's the day. I'm going to make a mental change in my life to say, you know what? I'm tired of having a bad credit score. Sooner or later, you're going to come to a point where enough is enough. And you're like, hey, I never thought about credit like this. I had a guy call me the other day, did a 15-minute consult with me. He said, Mike, man, you changed my life, dude. Like, this is what I get up, by the way, so you guys know what I get up every day for. Because he's on the phone with me, because I don't know how many people actually tell you this. But dude, you changed my life. I was able to get my car. I was able to get my family out into an apartment. We bought our first home. And I'm like, I don't really get to hear that kind of stuff. But I can tell you this. I appreciate the words. I appreciate you coming forward and telling me that. And he goes, you know what? He said, there was one part in one of the videos that you put that actually, I asked him, I said, what made you actually call us to say, you know what, I want to change my life? And he said this. He said, you know what? Right now, with how uncertain the world is and all things that are going on, the last thing that I wanted to try to figure out was how to do my own credit repair. He goes, dude, you made a comment about doing surgery on your heart. And he's like, man, that clicked with me. He's like, because yeah, you could pull out your heart and do your own surgery, just like you could do your own credit repair. But he goes, when you really broke it down and we're like, do you really have time to sit there and try to figure out credit repair and waste more time trying to figure it out? Of course, you could do it, but the average person takes 18 to 24 months to do their own credit repair. Or you can say, okay, cool, I'm going to invest a little bit in myself because I know that's one investment that no one can ever take away. And I'm going to invest in myself and say, you know what, today's the day. I'm going to have it done for me. I'm going to have the education. I'm going to have the Tradelines that we just talked about at 75% off. I'm going to have the #1 vendor in the world for doing credit repair that doesn't use letters, that use software. And I have all the education, associates, bachelors, and I want the fastest credit repair on the planet because I want results in 45 days, not 18 months. And that is what changed his life because he made a decision to say, you know what, today's the day. I'm going to ask you guys this. If your credit score is under 781 and you want to live life on life's terms and not being forced to do things and not pay higher interest rates and not be able to get the car you want and not be able to get the house you want and not be able to get the credit card you want and kind of suffering, to be honest with you, it's sad, but your life is basically dictated on a 3-digit number, then call me and say, I want to fix it. Humble yourself, pick up the phone, get your ass in the game. Call me today, 904-420-7772. My name is Mike from the Credit Game. Let's roll.